think we are. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm honored to be leading this conversation with two of the good leaders that I met working together in the past and two college. I'm going to introduce myself first and then allow them to be introducing by themselves. I'm Luciano Escudero, Lucho. I'm a VP of engineer within Globant. For people who doesn't know about Globant, Globant is a AI native digital company who we work for most of the most important media and sport organizations. We were recognized twice in a row by IBC as a media leaders. And we're working with most of the biggest ones, as I mentioned. Two of them next to me. I'm going to introduce first Sudheer. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello there. My name is Sudheer Sirivara. I'm an Executive Vice President here at Warner Brothers Discovery. I run most of the HBO Max platform along with CNN and Bleacher Report and a few other products that we have within the WBD portfolio, which includes things like media supply chain, the streaming platform, the monetization, ad tech platform, and the personalization platforms.
Great. And I'm going to make the ball to Lee.
My name's Lee Wright. I'm the Associate Director of IT at Formula One. And my teams are responsible for the real-time data and media distribution platforms of Formula One.
Great, awesome. So the key topics today, we're going to talk about live sports with a specifically focus on breaking through in three main pillars. One of them is reliability. The second one is going to be latency. And we're going to talk a little bit about telemetry and data enrichment. So the first question kicking off is going to be for Sudheer. So Sudheer, I know Warner Discovery has been delivering big events like NBA, NHL, and Olympics. Can you share with the audience what has been the lesson learned in terms of reliability and scalability that you have been well developed during the last years on the platforms?
Absolutely. So before we get into the learnings, let me set the stage for not everybody might know the properties that we support across WBD. So starting with the US, we support of course, NBA so last year, NHL, which is the National Hockey League, and the Major League Baseball. And this year we started supporting NASCAR and the Roland Garros in the US. Across LATAM, we support the UEFA Champions League, a few different soccer leagues, football leagues in Chile and Argentina. And of course, entertainment live events like Oscars and Emmys is in LATAM as well. And coming to the European market, of course, we have the English Premier League in UK, along with the rugby and Ashes cricket in partnership with the BT. And broader across Europe, of course, we have all 4 Grand Slams in the broader Eurosport property, including, of course, the Olympics that we cover across all of Europe. I think if you look at the classes of events across the spectrum, I would categorize them into 2 categories. One is the high concurrency live events, as well as if you look at the Olympics, these are highly concurrent events. They're not high scale, but a lot of events that happen at the same time. So each of them offer a slightly different set of challenges. And if you look at the high concurrency single events, like the English Premier League or the UEFA Champions League as an example, we have several million users, and we typically provision the infrastructure for supporting a projected usage, but depending on how close the game is or certain viral moments, you might see certain spikes. And same thing happens with March Madness, which is the college basketball in the US as well. And especially on a weekday when things are really close, everybody at work starts watching at the same time. So I think this is where you really need to have an infrastructure that is provisioned for scale, but also being able to detect leading spikes of your audience coming in, and how do you scale both the infrastructure as well as the delivery. As you know, some of the partners in the space that try to do live streaming, I think this is very important, both of them have a core infrastructure for playback stack as well as the delivery system, where you have multiple CDNs, and how you're enabling enough capacity across the CDNs is important. The other thing that's usually overlooked is, especially around single concurrent high streaming, is SSAI, which is server-side ad insertion or dynamic ad insertion. That's an integral part of the overall playback workflow. And you give an example where if you have a few million users who are watching a live concurrent event and you hit an ad break, and then at the same time you are basically sourcing personalized targeted ads across this entire spectrum of few million users. And now that creates a huge challenge around being able to source these ads, do dynamic transcoding and insertion in real time. And I think if you don't provision that appropriately, that creates a huge challenge in terms of live stream. And sometimes it goes down. So that's where you need to have fail-open strategies. If that is failing, how do you make sure the live stream continues to go? I think that's a key strategy thing you need to employ that we have learned lessons through the years. The second one, I think, especially when it comes to the Olympics, is an inverse problem, where you really don't have very high scale events, but number of concurrent events is going to be humongous. For example, the Paris Olympics that we did last year, we had at the peak, we had 64 concurrent events happening, each event with 24 different languages, especially in the European market, we need to have support the multiple language formats. So the combinatorial complexity of supporting 64 events with that many languages, time synchronized with commentators showing up, is a huge operational challenge. So I think this is where the challenge there is more to make sure that you have the right operations playbook, the setting of the streams, the QC of the streams, and being able to deliver it at scale without compromising on quality. I would say those are the two high-class events, but the common theme across both classes of events is having highly resilient systems and redundancy in your signal path. And when I say resiliency, it's more about being able to tolerate transients. Like, for example, CDNs typically have transient issues. When there are other traffic that's going on there might interfere with your primary traffic. And how do you make sure that you have a multi-CDN strategy with dynamic routing of traffic based on where you might be seeing delivery challenges is important. And when it comes to redundancy, it's both redundancy in your first mile signal path acquisition coming into your cloud environment, as well as infrastructure that you're running in the cloud, and then of course redundancy in your multi-CDN, which is the delivery piece. And I think redundancy in the first mile is super important, especially if your signal coming into your playback stack is broken, the entire stream is down.
Yeah.
Right? I think this is where I'll give an interesting anecdote about what happened during the Paris Olympics last year. As you know, during the opening ceremony, it was a huge rainstorm, right? So everybody was watching during that rainstorm, and that rainstorm actually started flooding. We had our primary facilities in two locations, in Paris, it is the Eurosport facilities there, and of course in London, our MCR and PCRs there. Our primary facility in Paris started flooding. So the water started coming into the basement, and the power went out. So of course we switched to backup power, and we were able to continue for a little bit. Again, this is leading up to the event and stuff. But basically we were getting to a point where things were about to get shut down because the temperature in the data centers was about a half a degree away from completely cutting down everything. And that's why we had, of course, ahead of that, we had to switch over to the primary path being London. And make sure that the Olympics opening ceremony went off smoothly. And this is where I think it's really important to have redundancy in the first mile acquisition path. And the last thing I would say is in order to drive these high-scale events globally, you need to have proactive monitoring. One, you have eyes on glass, but the systems need to be able to detect leading indicators of challenges in the overall platform and be able to take healing action. So I think that's where the combination of resiliency, redundancy, and proactive monitoring and proactive system healing is important to deliver high-scale events.
Yeah, especially because there are some elements that you cannot anticipate that are completely outside of your test cases scenario. So the proactive monitoring is the one allows you to identify those cases for the one that you didn't anticipate before doing testing phases, so 100%. Lee, now I'm gonna with you because I know you have kind of a different setup, very complex one on Formula One. So I want to just to describe for the audience, how is the production broadcast set up on Formula One? What has been the challenge that you see with the legacy platform, and how Globant was help you out on building the next generation for delivering video services?
Sure. Formula One is a remote operation and production. We have our acquisition systems at the track, which will take all the data from the cars, the timing, telemetry, the onboard cameras, etc., and take the track camera signals and all the microphones, etc., and we send all of that back to the UK to form a production. And obviously that adds latency. It could be 6 milliseconds when we're in Silverstone, but it could be 380 milliseconds in Australia. And that provides us a challenge to some of our real-time platforms. So working with our colleagues at Globant, we developed a new tool for the teams to use on their pit stands called Team CDS. And it's a tool that allows them to consume their onboard camera feeds in almost real time, or as ultra low latency as we can make it, to help them make decisions and insights of accessing those feeds in real time. We had a tool prior to that had a latency of somewhere around 9 milliseconds. But thanks to the technical experts at Globant, such as Carlos Gomez and yourself, we've managed to get that down to about 4 seconds. So from 9 seconds down to 4 seconds, which is amazing. But what it means is that the teams can then make much more informed decisions quickly about what they've seen. So that is the live element of that tool, but we also then have a post element to that tool. So after a session, you can use that tool, search on metadata for certain events that happened, and quickly call up multiple videos to, for example, as a driver, you might wish to compare yourself to another driver. You can load those up easily in the user interface and play them through. So I'd say, to answer the question, building tools that allow the teams to make decisions is what we've done to improve the viewer's experience.
Great, awesome. I'm gonna go into the innovation aspect now. So Sudheer, I'm gonna make a question for you. Globant and Warner Discovery has been working in multiple transformative and innovative projects within Warner. And I know where you're actually coming in the next few years, but I want you to describe a little bit of the use cases with the full audience on what Warner Discovery is building for the future of your entire platform products.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, as you can imagine, AI is transforming pretty much every aspect of the media industry, along with, of course, multiple other industries as well. I think that's why we're leaning heavily and working closely with partners like Globant to help drive innovation. I think I'll give you some examples of things that we have done and maybe some things that we are planning to do. So I think if you look at in the European market across the various sporting events, we had a couple of interesting things called timeline markers, where you basically have a sporting event, whether it's a soccer event or a cricket event or a Tour de France and such, an ability to have timeline markers along a long-running event when people are joining in, so they can catch up to either goals or injuries or red cards or yellow cards and such. Having that as part of an integrated data feed that coming in and synchronized with a timeline that you can hop around and consume that and then catch back to the live point. So I think that's one use case, and the other one during the Olympics that we did was the gold medal alerts. Again, leveraging AI to figure out where exactly the events were happening across then there are 64 concurrent events. Like there's a you're watching a particular event, and when you have a pop-up saying that there's a gold medal about to be decided in this event, you basically get the user to get drawn into that particular event and then come back and drop them back into where they were watching. So that drives better engagement overall in the platform. I think this is where one of the areas where we are leveraging AI to create automated timeline markers. If you look at when we work with partners like Gracenote and others who provide the data feed for these markers, there are other classes of events that are typically missed. For example, if there are shots on goal, and this is where we try to leverage ambient spectator excitement as an indicator, a KPI, leveraging AI to detect how the commentary track, along with excitement index in the audience, can help indicate that there is actually something worthwhile capturing as an and we're able to track that as another automated timeline marker that got populated on the timeline for people to consume. I think going forward, we look to see more and more of these events getting captured in an automated fashion through AI. The other use case, of course, in NASCAR, which we started, was the multi-view. The multi-view camera, along with a synchronized time data. I think Formula One we have similar challenges where you have the leaderboard that needs to be synchronized with the videos that you're watching, and then empowering the users to now switch across multiple different camera angles and such. But I think the key innovation going forward, I think where I see we need to be investing in and to draw better engagement is when people join at different points in an event. And how do you now automatically create all the key highlights until that point in time, so that they can catch up to that all the key events that have happened until that point, and then drop them back on the live point. So I think how do you now do this dynamically per user is important. I think that's where I think humans can't do this. So this is where AI is going to come in and help us capture these key events. And an automated highlight generation, we work with some of the partners in this space, but there's a lot of opportunity to really have natural language queries where a user comes in and says, okay, show me all the 3 pointers by my favorite player. That highlight might not exist. So now there's a natural language query, you can now, if the video is indexed, you can automatically stitch together a customized tailor highlight clip for every user. So that's another area where I think we are planning to invest. And the last one I would say is around how you overlay statistics around when a game is, in this American football, for example, when the people are ready to have a scrum and then go to the next play, based on the formation, you can predict the success of the play. Think, how do you now overlay that stat? Because today there is a lot of stats around scores and how fast a person runs, but predicting what the probability of these plays are going to be is another interesting way to draw the users in. So these are several interesting areas where we're looking to invest and grow the innovation.
Nice, nice. Coming to that point, talking about innovation, and as I said before, The Formula One is a very complex ecosystem. Has been interesting how it's been able to mix latency with telemetry, with reliability. And in that terms, how you were able to experiment also with products for doing some of the latencies as we discussed it with, for instance, the AWXs with ABS, right? You want to describe a little bit how you balance product development with experimentation on those products and being able to deliver for teams what you need to deliver?
Yeah, so for the teams, the reliability is key, but they will also demand low latency and extra content. But what we went for the right tool for the job. So as you're watching the live content, away from the track, the teams are allowed to access this content using AWS IVS. At the track, we built our own CDN, built of bespoke containers that allowed us to keep the latency down, but also guarantee the reliability. And with a lot of tweaking of the parameters, we're able to then ensure that the containers didn't crash or the cameras, encoders didn't cause issues with the video feeds. But basically through choosing the right tool for the job, and ensuring we tweak the parameters, we were then able to guarantee the latency. The biggest challenge, though, from a real-time perspective, is marrying that video to the telemetry. The video is always slower. So from that perspective, we were able to build a timeline that populates itself as the session goes on, and that adds key events, yellow car, safety car, etc. So while the video might be 4 seconds behind real time, actually when a flag event happens, you click that flag event and it pops itself into AWS Media Package. Yeah. So with the ability to serve you the content remotely through proxy servers to guarantee that you're then not compromising on the browser or the client itself having to do the caching, etc.
Yeah, actually the concept of the multi-view, the telemetry of the time offset that you're able to mix in the map, I think that is the reason why I'm saying is the complexity of that one, plus you deliver local and also remotely for the different teams.
Yeah, each team's allowed 15 sessions at the track and 15 sessions remotely. We built the platform to ensure that everybody had a even playing field. So we limited it to 15 to ensure that it wasn't used to create video wars, etc., but to guarantee that the platform wouldn't be overloaded. But yeah, also just to ensure that we guarantee the quality.
Great. So I have a little bit of time, so I'm going to introduce you a question more for you, Sudheer. Piracy has been kind of a hot topic for delivery. And I know Warner Discovery, with the whole entire portfolio of products, has been very deeply involved in trying to avoid that one. You're going to give a little bit of visibility of what is affecting as a product development on piracy decisions on the product itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can imagine, content rights holders like us pay billions of dollars for rights for these sporting events, and we want to make sure that we're able to monetize that, either through subscription or advertising, right? So I think this is where it's critical that we are able to minimize the piracy. We cannot take it down to zero, but minimize the piracy as much as possible. So that's why we have a multi-pronged strategy around that. And if you start with, of course, the basic DRM, like Clarity, Widevine, Fair Play, and such, it provides you some level of protection for most people. But again, as you know, there are systems that actually work around that. I think this is where you get into the next level, which is watermarking, right? How do you do watermarking of events? Again, I look at watermarking as two-pronged strategy. One is when you're syndicating your feed to partners, you watermark that, so know if something gets pirated, you know which partner's feed is actually getting pirated. So you can narrow down the aperture of where you want to look at. The second one is session-based watermarking, where every session can get watermarked, because if somebody is doing screen scraping, that becomes challenging, especially when you have millions of users. Every session to get watermarked, and this is where there are some strategies where you can do watermarking at the edge. Yeah. And we're working with the CDN partners to enable that. And that is going to be, I think, another more definitive way of doing it. But just watermarking doesn't avoid piracy. Watermarking gives you, okay, who is pirating it? This is where I think you need to now engage with partners in the ecosystem, like Friends, MTS, and others that we work with, who actually proactively monitor the various social media platforms, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or TikTok and others, where some of our streams might show up. So I think at the end of the day, of course, you need to, once you detect it, you need to have takedown notices across these platforms. Yes. To make sure that these pirated streams don't get volume. Like if you dozen people watching is one thing, but if you have hundreds and thousands of users watching, that's a loss of monetization. So think there is a multi-pronged platform strategy along with proactive monitoring. I think together is going to help prevent piracy.
Great. And last question for you, Lee. What is coming for your team now in the near future? What is the TCDS team building for the near future in Formula One?
The next feature on the horizon is probably a strategy-based view of that metadata for searching the videos.
Yeah, which is super excited, by the way. I know it's going to be a very nice feature for the teams. Good, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you, both of you, for joining today on our panel, giving the whole insight for the entire audience. And thank everyone for being here. Really proud. Thank you.
Thank you.